Good morning, everyone. It's Saturday, which means it's time for yet another Salty Saturday morning. I am your host, producer Kadish. It's Mr. and producer. Got to get both in there.
Oh,
and we got a big show today talking about Star Wars' latest TV show, The Acolyte, which hopefully people on the panel actually watched. I did give them the assignment. I'm pretty sure some people didn't. Then we're also going to be talking about AI filmmaking, YouTubers getting Emmys, and Jennifer Lopez dominating Netflix. But before we get into all that, I want to introduce my fantastic panel of nerds, starting with Dutch Butters himself. How you doing, Mr. Butters?
I'm here. I'm okay. I'm sitting over here reading these riveting and thought-provoking reviews on Rotten Tomatoes for The Acolyte. They're very well put together and well-structured reviews. That's what they're saying about the show. It's really well-structured. I'm getting that a lot. So,
Totally disagree with that, but
okay. Yeah. So having fun. Good stuff.
Good stuff. And he's here. He's queer. He's the original Smoke Show himself. Brian from the Popcast. How you doing?
What's up, guys? Listen, Jennifer Lopez can dominate me, not me and Dutch Butters.
Yeah, man. I know what you mean.
You know what I mean, bro.
Yeah, man. Get some of that Latinx action.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Get some of that Latinx action. Ooh. Hey, welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, good old Jenny from the block.
Jenny from the block.
And we are graced with the presence of the one and only Tom Connors Jr., who did not watch The Acolyte on principle. How you doing, buddy?
Yep. I mean, I didn't watch most of the Boba Fett show. I didn't watch Mandalorian season 3. Watched only a couple episodes of Andor. So my answer was what? And the Ahsoka show didn't even touch with a 10-foot pole. So why should I break a trend now?
So, Tom, what you're saying is you make a career about talking about things you don't watch.
That's right. Well, no, I did see the new movie this week for once.
Well,
and nobody's talking about it.
Good job. Okay. All right.
That's because no one cares about Will Smith anymore, Tom.
Nobody.
Actually,
about Will Smith.
I don't know. The box office says otherwise.
Maybe. Or there might just be nothing else to do at this point in time.
I just don't think people care as much as we do.
Maybe.
Oh, I don't care at all. I get you. I totally understand.
But speaking about caring, he is the man who is shepherding the next generation of filmmakers towards new media instead of Hollywood. Film professor Sean Collett from the College of Southern Nevada Film School. How you doing, film professor Sean?
Hey, how you doing, guys? I'm doing fine. Keeping busy, more busy than I deserve, really. But
well, so we've got a link to your movie in both the description and the pinned comment in the chat. You did a Twilight Zone remake called Death Ship that is available on YouTube. It's a very cool little movie. You want to tell us a little bit about it?
It took me a long time to make. I kept myself busy with it as a side project whenever I could get to it, and it was just my experimentation with virtual environment before it was a thing. So everything was done modeled by me, and I keep looking at it now and thinking, boy, I could go back and make it look so much better because now I'm in Unreal Engine. Yeah, exactly. And that's why at some point after year 9, I had to say, all right, it's done. I'm done with it. I can't, because I kept falling into that trap of, oh, I can do that much better now. I'll go back and redo these scenes. And then I just kept doing that, and it took forever, but it was just doing everything. Yeah. So
now you can just AI prompt most of it. Save yourself some time.
Oh God. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing. I'm getting older.
Yeah, but I wanted to have film professor Sean on the show today to talk about why Ahsoka looks like a fan film as opposed to like a
Ahsoka or the Acolyte.
I'm sorry, The Acolyte.
Yeah,
I'm getting them all confused and fumbled around. But why The Acolyte looks so cheap after spending $160 million on it? But we're going to get into that in a little bit. First, I want to give a big shout out to our top donors, including Scotty Dub, who came in hard last week with a $99 super chat. He's still our top contributor, and he's sitting at the top of our biggest donators with $199 super chat. Really cool stuff. Also, William Forbes, not to be forgotten, the biggest Dutch Butters fan that I know. He's still out there somewhere. We haven't seen him in a while, but hopefully he's still catching our replays.
He's
and our most consistent donator, Mexican Iron Man, and all of our gifters, Jillian N., WG, Sam Schwager, Major Chai Chai, and Eric Winberg. These are the guys who most consistently gift subscriptions to everyone in our chat. They are really cool people. Speaking of which, we are trying to hit 10 new members during this live stream. So if you guys want to sign up for the Salty Nerd membership, or you want to gift some subs, be sure to do that today and help us get to our goal of 10 new members. Also, please be sure to leave comments about your opinions about the stories we talk about. We really want to hear from you guys. Real quick, at the end of our live stream, we're going to be redirecting all you guys over to Mephisto's movie reviews. He's got a live stream that he does right after our show ends, so definitely want to stick around and check him out. And also, if you have time, go over to saltynerdclub.com. That takes you to our Patreon, and we are posting movie commentaries over there. So if you want to see us bitch about movies in real time, you can do that for a relatively cheap price, and it should be a good time had by all. But before we get into our stories, I need to call up a super chat from our good friend, the only person who's not a YouTuber, Mexican Iron Man, for $5. YouTube wouldn't take my comment above, so this super chat is so you'll read my comment above. And I'm going to have to find his comment because Matt Vader hasn't been starring these things for me. Let's see here.
It doesn't on its
Matt
own.
Vader? I just dead named you. Okay. All right. So Mexican Iron Man, what's up, bigots? I heard I can find some good old-fashioned cracker racism and misogyny here. So now that the Force is female, you guys should embrace it and change your pronouns and gender too. LOL.
Dutch Butters doesn't play the pronoun game.
No, just the dead name game.
Yeah, whatever.
Whatever. All right. So before we get into it, Tom, you had something that you wanted to share.
Well, this is all I can add to this.
I think that's the more appropriate name for the series.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Actually, these were made by Scribe Light, so I got to give them credit. But yeah,
Cool.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, we'll get into all this stuff in a little bit. But also, Jillian N. just gifted 5 Salty Nerd podcast memberships. She is the queen of gifted memberships on this channel. Thank you so much, Jillian N. Really appreciate it. And everyone who gets the gifted membership from her, be sure to give her a shout out and thank her for her generosity. She is fantastic. We really like it when people gift subs here. And be sure to check out our members only playlist on the channel because that's where all this stuff goes. Butters, June's been kind of a weird month for us. People's schedules have been all over the place. School's been letting out. There hasn't been anything really to talk about in particular. So we've been a little bit behind on our content creation for the month, but we promise you guys we will get back on top of that as soon as we possibly can. But you can always find us here on Salty Saturdays. So why don't we get into this? I kind of wish that Odin was here. By the way, Odin is going to be a little bit late. He will be joining us, but he had some children's stuff to deal with. But in the meantime, I want to talk about how Emmys for YouTubers is going to be a thing, apparently. And speaking of Odin, literally was just talking about you, buddy.
What's up, Odin?
What's up? Oh man, yeah, sick baby is never a fun thing. So
yes, sick baby is never a fun thing. It sounds like an album name or something like that.
Yeah, it sounds like a big
Seriously.
sick baby.
Sick baby.
Sick baby, never a fun thing.
I remember.
Yes, but Odin, so I was just introducing this topic about how YouTube's current CEO has written an open letter to Hollywood and the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences in particular to say that, hey, get with the times, you old people. YouTube creators deserve to be nominated for Emmys because YouTube, I don't know if you guys realize this or not, but YouTube has more viewers than cable television currently. It is getting more minutes watched than Netflix, which is the biggest streamer on the planet. And so the guy who runs the company is basically swinging his dick around and saying like, hey, Hollywood, take some of these creators who are the future of TV and give them some recognition. Otherwise, you guys are going to be irrelevant. So I want to throw this to Tom Connors first and foremost. I know that he said he has nothing to contribute today. I'm going to force him to weigh in on this. Tom, do you deserve an Emmy? And do you think other YouTubers deserve Emmys as well?
I do. I don't know about you guys.
You definitely deserve one for the most appearances on live streams.
No, I think Culture Casinos beat me on that
Facts.
one. But I mean, we kind of do, not us personally, but I mean, in a way, we are the new live entertainment. I mean, who takes The View seriously?
Right.
As far as that stuff goes. Now, as far as dramatic and all that kind of stuff, I can't speak to that, but I mean, I don't see why YouTube shouldn't be considered along with other things for Emmys. I mean, like you just stated, at this point where we're at least, I mean, YouTube gets more viewers than anything else, period, hands down. There's no even contest there. So, I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, sure.
Do you think that this is like an example of Hollywood just not respecting like actual content creators as opposed to people who work within the industry?
Oh yeah, they hate us. And yeah, I mean, for one, like people like Joe Rogan and stuff would probably win every year. Which whatever. But so it'd just be people that are just mainstream adjacent. But I'm curious what you guys think more so. I mean, this is the first I've heard about it, so
yeah. Neil Mohan, who is the current CEO of YouTube, he took over, I think it was last year, in the position. He's really trying to push this for creators to get the recognition they deserve. And Odin, Mr. Beast just signed like this big $150 million deal with Amazon to create a game show. There is going to be some crossover, between mainstream media and YouTubers. And we've even seen it in our sphere with Gary from Nerdrotic and Critical Drinker, appearing on Piers Morgan and stuff like that. And there are a lot of YouTubers out there that are actually like really innovating stuff. Like I think Hot Ones started off as like a YouTube thing, and lots of like live streams and talk shows and analysis, especially like in the news field. Like people are more and more getting their news from YouTube creators as opposed to like CNN or Fox News or MSNBC and stuff like that, these big networks. So do you think that it's time Hollywood kind of like woke up and recognized that this is the future of TV instead of being so like stuck in their old ways?
I guess I have two answers to this. If we're talking about it as far as keeping the current structure in, as it is with the current Academy in the case of the Oscars or whatever the group that is in charge of the Emmys is, then it would be in their best interest to actually start to introduce these categories to try to make themselves more relevant. But I would also answer no, because I don't care about the Emmys at all, and I think the entire structure is the problem. So even if they were to add in categories, and even if they were to start awarding people, it would still be the same hyper politicized garbage that's been on the TV for years now. And it would be like with the Oscars, unless there was a complete overhaul of the people behind the scenes, the producers, the executives behind the scenes, then I wouldn't care if they like, for instance, last year I loved the film Iron Claw. Let's say they're giving all the accolades to the Iron Claw. That still wouldn't change the opinion that I have about the Academy, because it's become so corrupt and so political in so many different ways. The entire structure needs to be overthrown. The entire structure needs to be overturned. It would be similar to Star Wars, for instance, right? If for any reason, obviously those rumors are always out there about George Lucas this and George Lucas that. We all know those are crap. But let's say that did happen. That wouldn't change anything, because you would still have Kathy Kennedy at the top. You would still have Bob Iger there. So whether it's the Emmys or these other award shows, do I think that they in their best interest should act this way? Yes. I think that they would be stupid not to. Do I care enough in reality? Do I want to see that happen? No, because it wouldn't change anything, because the same people that they're nominating in TV are going to be the same people they end up nominating on YouTube and in podcasting.
Yeah,
it's still going to be the typical club that they're all a part of that we're not in, right?
Yeah, it's kind of
club, and you're not invited. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, well, what's interesting to me, film professor Sean, is that YouTube is the real kind of like decentralization of distribution when it comes to filmmaking, television, all that stuff. Because anyone can go on YouTube and start creating a show, and if their content's good and it resonates with an audience, they're going to grow and they're going to find success. And part of this open letter that the CEO wrote to the Hollywood Reporter is that there are people who are on YouTube who are solopreneurs, who are solo content creators, that have development teams and production teams that would rival anything coming out of Hollywood. Right, like you have people who are like on like the production end, who are like cinematographers and editors, and people who set up the lights and all that other stuff. And then like they go direct to consumer just by publishing on YouTube and building up a powerful audience. And so one of the benefits of award shows is that it can give publicity to previously unknowns in their field. And so like if there was a category for YouTubers in the Emmys, the mainstream public might discover like YouTubers that they didn't know about before and go to their channel and check them out and become fans and help them grow their fan base. So even just being nominated, even if you are up against someone like a Joe Rogan for podcasting or something like that, it like getting down into these like sub niches of award categories might be beneficial. So as a film professor, someone who actually like teaches like the Utes of America, do you think that this is a good opportunity for, you know, the future generation of content creators to get recognized by an industry that's been typically gatekept for most of its existence?
Well, I think the key word you just mentioned is the gatekeeping, because I think it would be a good thing as long as the politics were not a factor, but I don't see that, you know, being a thing. I don't see that happening. I think that, yeah, because it gives people a goal to shoot for. Not that they should be trying to, you know, win an Emmy, and that's the sole purpose of the thing. But a lot of creative people, a lot of very talented people, kind of feel left out of their chance. And I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing, but the problem is the keepers of the cheese are often like, you know, what was mentioned before, you know, Joe Rogan's going to win it every year or something. I think if they had a category specifically dedicated to best new talent or best content created by somebody that's been in for less than a year or something like that, just to get that out there. Yeah, I think that, I mean, recognition is always a good thing, but I fear that the system isn't going to be nearly as objective and fair as we might think it is, you know, should be. And so, yeah, there's good and bad with everything. I don't think that it's a bad thing. No, I think that people should have something. I think it'd be cool for the Academy to do the same thing if they were going to be objective and honest about it and give people the recognition they honestly deserve. But I think it'll be too hyper politicized.
You just said something that doesn't compute with Hollywood, objective and honest.
Yes, exactly.
and I just want to add, like, after thinking about it and listening to you guys talk a little bit, there's no way they would let this happen. No chance in hell.
Mm-mm.
Because the first thing that would happen is you'd have about a half a dozen people from shows like The View and other things going, well, if they're going to be allowed to win awards, then I'm not showing up. And that would then the whole thing would break down, and they would never let it happen, because we are still seen as outsiders, regardless if it's won by Joe Rogans and PewDiePies or whatever.
I don't know about that, Tom, because I feel like so many YouTubers out there have way bigger audiences than The View.
They do, but that doesn't matter. They do not want to legitimatize things like that. That's the thing that I'm saying, is they would never let it happen.
Well, there's people on this panel that have more views than The View.
Yeah, and better opinions. But the point I'm trying to make is that, you know, the Emmys, like, their ratings are in the toilet. Most award shows are, and that's because they're not relevant to most of the audiences out there. If the Emmys were to like strike a deal with YouTube, where like they would broadcast on YouTube, and, you know, like the audiences of the creators that were nominated would watch the Emmys to see if their favorites win. I think that could be a factor in swaying the Academy to do that. But I want to throw this to Brian, because, you know, Brian, you and your brother Shane, you guys make documentaries on the level of Hollywood studios, like wow. You know, your stuff about Ghostbusters, Star Trek, all that stuff, like it's very slick, it's very well made. I would put you guys up against anything that goes on the History Channel or whatever the case may be.
What a huge praise.
And so, like, for creators like yourself, like, you know, the exposure that getting nominated for an Emmy, for even if it's a small category, you know, that could give you access more to the people at Paramount who are like, okay, maybe we need to listen to these guys when it comes to Star Trek, or basically give YouTubers a bigger influence in the industry. And I feel like the industry even though it's slow to adapt, wants to stay relevant, and they're realizing more and more that the old ways of doing things aren't working. So what's your take on this? Do you think YouTube CEO is right that Hollywood needs to start incorporating creators into their decision making?
Yeah. No, she is right. They won't. She is right. He, they, I don't care. I don't know what
don't
they are.
Misgender. Don't misgender.
Whatever their pronouns are, they're correct. However, I think that Tom is right. They probably will never do it, even if they want to stay relevant. But it would make sense that they involve YouTubers, creators who are creating content that rivals what Hollywood can create. I really appreciate those compliments. That's very nice. We try to make every one of our docs as like polished as possible. Then one coming out right now is taking me weeks. But I think that even if they did incorporate it, every person nominated would be like, welcome the gay, black, trans activists. They're coming to the stage now. Their pronouns are he, her, and ger. And they did a documentary about mosh pits. And like it'll be someone none of us know. And they have a pocket audience of like 3% of the country. That'll be the majority of the people getting awards. It won't be anyone. It won't be actual popular people. It'll be all the hyper woke people.
Over politicized. Yeah.
Right. Everything will be over politicized again. So I would love to see it happen just so we can make fun of it for somehow Joe Rogan not getting the most popular podcast when some guy named, Nancy shows up dressed in a dress and with a full beard, and he, they, them, ger get it. That'll end up being what happens. So let's go. Let's do it, man. By the way, I got a new hat. Look at that. I love wieners.
Yep. You love wieners? That's good. That's good.
Yep. Very, very intersectional of you, Brian. But I could see stuff like, best new podcast, type thing where, Joe Rogan doesn't have any chance to, enter into that type of thing. But Dutch, or Mr. Butters, as I should say, not much. How are you? Wanted to talk to you a little bit about so there are obviously current award shows for content creators like the Streamies and
Streamers,
and stuff like that, and they do help get recognition to people who are kind of like doing stuff that's new and innovative in the field, but nobody really cares about those things. There's a lot of weight that goes behind like the Emmys, especially in Hollywood, because even though recognition has been kind of slow to kind of like point out creators' achievements, the agencies in Hollywood are very aggressive when it comes to representing certain types of YouTubers. So like Colin and Samir and some of these other big kind of like interview talk shows, I think Lex Friedman as well, they get represented by these big Hollywood agencies that then help them negotiate brand deals, which makes them like a bunch of money. And so there's already kind of like a foot in the door in Hollywood. What do you think it would take for creators to really start breaking through and getting recognized and properly accredited by something like the Television, Motion Picture, and Sciences Academy?
What would it take? I don't know what it would take. I guess more eyes on your channel, right? I mean, let's face it. I mean, people like me out there, the Emmys, the Oscars, the Tonys, these things are all completely irrelevant. I give no craps about any of those awards. I haven't in years and years and years. Don't watch them. I would rather have 100,000 sub plaque hanging up in the wall behind me here, like some of you guys do, or whatever. To me, those are the kind of things that recognize quality entertainment on YouTube. I don't know what really to say here other than these awards. They're just the mainstream awards are just self-congratulatory shows. It's like, hey, good job, you made a show. It's your turn this year. It's like, and that's why nobody cares about these things, because they're all just mutual masturbation societies. And I don't even know if most of the people in the YouTube world would even want or care about being congratulated by people in those circles. I think the YouTube creators, people, they need to make their own shows. They need to do their own things. Like Odin has his Raven Awards. The Streamier Awards are really cool. We need to make our own cottage industry and reward ourselves, because that's apparently how we're supposed to do it. So, I don't know. Be rewarded for making YouTube channels and be rewarded for making TV there's two different things to me. You watch them on the same screen, but it's two different worlds, and I just I don't personally care if they get mixed up or not. I don't like it. I don't see it. So.
All right. Well, I think if they were to give an Emmy for best rebranding, it would probably go to you, Mr. Butters.
Well, you guys did it, not me. You guys
Dutch
figured it
Butters,
out.
the HBO Max of YouTube.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it went from HBO Max to Max. That's correct, Tom. So, guys, we got a couple more gifted subs that I wanted to highlight here. So we got one from Eric Winberg, who gifted 1 Salty Nerd podcast membership. Thank you so much, Eric. Really appreciate you. And not to be outdone, Major Chai Chai coming in for the 5 Salty Nerd podcast memberships. We have now hit our goal, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for helping us get to those 10 memberships. Really, really appreciate that. Just real quick, film professor Sean, is your mic properly working now? Okay.
I just turned
far
it
away
off
from your face though, Sean.
Yeah.
You gotta get closer to your face.
Oh well, I can bring it in a little.
There's a lot of air between you and the mic, and
Yeah, you should have said something before. Okay, there we go. How's that?
You sounded fine before. It's just Brian trolling you.
I'm not trolling you. I have OCD. So.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right, guys. So we talked a little bit about Hollywood, and we're going to go down this path a little bit further, because Ashton Kutcher, everyone's favorite non-celebrity celebrity, came out today and talked about how Hollywood needs to step up its game because AI filmmaking is going to be a thing. And you know me, I love talking about AI filmmaking on this channel. And I feel like it's the future of Hollywood. And if Hollywood doesn't address it, then it's going to be eating their lunch. And there are a lot of people out there who are like, we need to stop AI. We need to regulate it. We need to protect ourselves. And I'm like, that's a losing battle. That's like trying to build a dam as the tidal wave is getting ready to crash down on
It's
top.
it's already here, dude. There's no putting the water back, dude. It's over.
No.
Yeah, but
You know what's so crazy about AI? I have a review of Jaws the Revenge that Andre did. I don't even think he's ever seen on Jaws the Revenge, to be honest with you, but it's fucking hilarious.
Oh, you mean you used his voice to make the review?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
You tell me after the show what tech you used.
Maybe.
Well, speaking of tech, so this is an article from Variety. And by the way, guys, all the articles that we cover in the show are linked in the description if you guys want to read them yourselves. But Ashton Kutcher basically got access to Sora, which is OpenAI's latest and greatest video generator. It's a text to video prompt, which basically means you type in what you want, and the AI creates a photorealistic video version of it. And it can go up to, I think, 20 seconds or 15 seconds or something like that. But Ashton, being the celebrity that he is, got access to Sora, and he's been playing around with it. And he says that it's pretty amazing, and that, to quote him, he says, you can generate any footage that you want. You can create good 10, 15-second videos that look very real. It still makes mistakes. It still doesn't quite understand physics. But if you look at the generation of this that existed 1 year ago as compared to Sora, it's leaps and bounds. In fact, there's footage in it I would say you could easily use in a major motion picture or television show. And he goes on to say that stuff like for instance, insert shots or establishing shots for movies, TV shows, where you'd usually have to pay thousands of dollars to assemble a union crew and go out and shoot these things and get actors back or whatever the case may be. These things can now be computer generated for like $100 in total, right? For that subscription to Sora. So he's like, this is going to revolutionize. Like if you need, like, filmmakers no longer need to go out if they're missing like an insert shot of something or whatever the case may be, they can just generate it But he's also saying that you don't have to hire computer graphics departments anymore to do CGI. Like he describes in this that he rendered a video of an ultra marathoner running across the desert being chased by a sandstorm. And he's like, it rivals anything that a high-end Hollywood studio could produce for me for a fraction of the cost. And he's also talking about how the technology, like for instance, NVIDIA, is creating like new technology that's geared specifically to be utilized by AI programs that's going to speed up the rendering process. It's going to help create these neuro processors that can, get hands right and like all this other stuff. So he's very, very big on this idea that Hollywood, if they keep sleeping on this, they're going to have their lunch eaten by people who just use AI to make their own films. So I want to throw this to Sean, film professor Sean, since you run the film program at the College of Southern Nevada. You teach college kids how to make movies and stuff like that. What role is AI playing in film schools nowadays, and how are students kind of like looking at AI as a way to save money and up their production value on their content?
Well, primarily, thus far, it's been just in the realm of generating voices for VO and things like that. People tend to use it because they don't like their own voice or whatever, so they can type it in, and that's been done a number of times already. So I don't mind that being used. I still think that if they can't do the voice themselves, then I think they should be in at least trying to find somebody that can do it. I mean, it's kind of a mixed bag right now. As far as the video generating stuff, we've had a couple of instances of them just throwing images that were AI generated into up their production value to a degree. Images that would be ordinarily prohibitively expensive for them to have access to. Honestly, I can say that it's going to be a challenge in the next 2 years. Right now, it's not so much of a big deal because it's so new and people haven't really picked up on it. What I worry about is, people turning something in and it's all AI generated. But at least because a lot of the discussion has been like, oh, are they going to be generating papers and stuff like this? And that's fine, but we don't do papers. We do films. So one of the requirements of the classes is that all of the material that they've gathered over the course of the semester in their projects is all backed up on these large hard drives. And we have the ability to, kind of do screenings and see their editing platform and whatever they're doing. So we can see the receipts of whatever it is that they're generating. So it's just going to be really interesting in the next couple of years in terms of AI being able to generate content. Yeah, I can see within the next few years, probably within the next decade, you're going to be able to sit down at a computer and tell it what kind of movie you want to watch, and it'll generate it for you, which is just lazy. And I think it's handing over our intellectual and creative sovereignty over to a computer, which makes the rest of the brain atrophy, and then we're idiocracy. So I think that's when
I'm just thinking of porn right now. It's just
the porn
So much
AI
weird
will
porn.
make.
That's a good point, Mr. Buggers.
Actually, yeah, that's true. I mean, I want to see a Sarlacc porn, or something.
So to kind of like go off of that, first of all, when I went through film school, we were still learning how to shoot on actual film, and it was right at the cusp of the HD revolution, where the HD cameras were like these big monstrosities. George Lucas had like the only 3 in existence. That really revolutionized how content was made after I left film school, because they moved away from film to video because it was cheaper, resolution was better, it was more affordable to kind of like get the equipment and stuff like that. I feel like we're on the cusp of that right now with AI, where basically film students now, instead of like shooting stuff on high definition video, they're literally going to be rendering out 4K, 8K, 16K AI generated footage and assembling, narratives through that. I want
we
to throw
have
this
policies for that. Let me address that real quick, because we do have policies for that. They do have to generate their own stuff. That's not going to be something that we would allow, because that's the same thing as having it write your term paper for you.
Well, but what I'm saying is that the future of film schools, I think, is going to be about prompting as opposed to actually having equipment and going out and filming stuff, because you still have to know how to compose the shot. You still have to know how to get the right shot for your stuff. So it's going to become a situation where film students don't need actors or locations or equipment or anything like that. They just need a computer that they know how to use to generate the images that they want and construct the stories that they want. I want to throw this to Brian real quick, because out of everyone on the panel, Brian actually developed his own AI. It's Shane AI, to help make his documentaries and things of that nature. And one of the things that Ashton Kutcher pointed out, it kind of goes to Dutch Butter's snarky comment there, which is basically Ashton Kutcher sees a future where if you're bored and there's nothing on TV to watch, you can literally go to a AI service like, OpenAI, say, hey, ChatGPT, I want to watch a movie about an alien race that fights another alien race. Can you generate a script for me? And then it generates a script. You then plug that script into Sora, and then Sora makes the movie that you want to watch. And it's just something for you personally, because you're bored and there's nothing particularly, kind of hitting your interest on any of the other platforms. You don't want to spend time doom scrolling. So like within the course of maybe like a half hour, you could actually make your own movie for you to enjoy. So as someone who actually created, his own AI to help him with his content creation, I want to get your perspective on this. Do you think that that's a legitimate kind of thing that's in the pipeline for consumers in terms of using AI to create content that they want to watch if there's nothing else for them that interests them?
Maybe in many, many years. So what Kutcher doesn't fully, I don't think Kutcher understands this, like the technical part of it. And I'm not trying to talk Sean Kutcher. I think he's a good guy. But when he says, these scenes are for $100 are ready to go, that's totally false. I've seen the Sora video, and the video that it can generate is extremely low quality. And Sean, you know this. Let me tell you something. If you can see something really small and be like, oh, that looks really good, but the second you blow it up, if it's 240p, there's no way you're using it in a feature film. Sorry, not sorry. And if it took you 100 hours of processing time and $600 to create that 1 minute of 240p footage, cool. It's a cool concept, but it's not remotely ready for feature use. And the thing about AI is that we don't currently have the processing power to allow it to generate the thousands and thousands and thousands of consecutive images required to create just a minute of high quality footage. So what they do is they create the low quality footage, and then they upscale that with something called like a smart sharpener or topaz or whatever, right? And there's an AI upscaler that takes an image, it looks at the image, and it goes, I'm going to fill in the blanks. So instead of just making the image bigger, it makes it bigger, and all the pixels that would be lost, it fills in. However, even that process takes a ton of time. Like if you use one of these smart scalers like Topaz or Gen Z or whatever, and you try to upscale, you're talking about another 150 hours for that 1 minute. So hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of processing time to create 1 minute of footage. At what point, yeah, it's cheaper because you could do it on a computer, but at what point is it way faster to get a crew out there to shoot the outside of that building without artifacts, without issues,
Yeah, but the technology is just going to get better and faster and cheaper and quicker as
the software will get better, bro, but the hardware is quickly reaching a cap.
No, I don't think so. I think the hardware is just going to keep. It says in that article that they're developing processors that are 30 times more powerful of the ones we have now.
Yeah, listen,
I
I
mean,
have a Threadripper, bro, and it's the most powerful
now
processor
10
you
years
can buy
10
as
years
a-
from now
as a
it's going to
user.
be a 10 years from now it's going to be a piece of
No,
shit.
but the Threadripper is that big because they've ran out of space.
Look, man, they said 30 years ago we weren't never going to be able to do nothing better than
That was
fucking
30 years ago. Moore's
asteroids.
law is
So
a depreciating
it's
concept.
just going to, things are going to get more powerful, they're going to get smaller, and you know, things are going to get
Yeah.
faster.
Well, I
It's
think
just-
that's what Brian
yeah.
was saying. Brian
Yeah.
said that years and years from now it'll get to that point, but I don't
it's gonna
think that
take
we
a
can.
long time.
It's you know, it's going to take a while for us to really get there, and but that brings me back to the other point, is like, why attend film school in the first place if you're just going to be able to generate the images from your computer anyway? I mean, regardless of the hardware requirements and the time rendering and things like that, you get, right now we're at the point where a lot of people don't feel that there's any value in going to film school because they can just watch YouTube videos and learn it. So if you're actually going to take the time to go to a film school, I don't think that we're going to be filled with, you know, you just go to film school to learn how to type in prompts. I think that capturing the image is going to be something that we're going to have to, you know, teach, and it's not going anywhere for a while. That's
Here's
there's
the
a
deal,
few-
guys. It's not just prompts.
Hold on, guys. So, you know, there's never been a good value proposition for going to film schools, other than getting access to equipment that you otherwise couldn't afford. But I think film schools need to focus more on film theory and teaching people, you know, how to tell stories as opposed to the technical aspects of this. But I went through this to Odin. You know, Odin, Tyler Perry was getting ready to open like an $800 million studio expansion in, you know, his area of Atlanta to kind of ramp up his ability to do in-house productions. And when he saw the first kind of like examples of Sora came out, he literally canceled those plans. He's like, dude, like this stuff, we're not going to need sound stages. We're not going to need cameras and crew members and stuff like that. We're just going to need AI. So why am I going to make an almost $800 billion investment in you know, expanding my my studio out here if it's just going to be irrelevant in like 10 years, right? So I wanted to get your take on this, Odin. Do you think that AI is basically going to change the way that Hollywood and current Hollywood filmmakers do their jobs?
To some extent, I think it will. I think we've talked about this previously, and I think the way in which it's probably going to impact them first, and it would be wise for them to try to utilize it as best as they can, is in their spending on visual effects and CG effects especially. And obviously, with what it can do today, there are obviously a lot of limitations to that, but eventually there is going to be a point where there is enough data, there is enough processing power to be able to render images just by putting in certain descriptions that could actually potentially save Hollywood tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars on some of the major projects that they make, especially with how many of them use CGI and visual effects in that way and in that capacity. So I think that would be something, and a way in which it could impact it. I do think there will be definitely some that will try to utilize it for writing. I think that some have argued, right, that we've already seen that, where some of the scripts have been so bad, it's almost as if, okay, AI had to have written that at this point, because the fact that a human being would have come up with that it just sounds ridiculous. So I think that you're definitely going to see some utilizations of it, either in the writing. I think the most sensible one, at least in my mind, especially as far as costs go and cost-cutting measures, would be to try to use it to create visual effects. But I think that this is going to be one of those things that, because there's still a lot of dinosaurs running the things in Disney and in Hollywood in general, you're going to have them dragging their feet on this for so long that you're already seeing this to certain extents. There's so many really cool videos, for instance, where, you know, my son, he is very interested in Godzilla, for instance. And there's this one video he loves watching now. We just discovered it maybe a week ago, where it's the atomic breath of Godzilla developing over the course of time, right? So all the film versions and what it looked like and how it was perceived, and all of it was created. It looks like it was created with AI, some AI generator or some graphic engine that was able to utilize it. And so you're already seeing YouTubers use that. So I think that what's going to happen is that YouTubers people in the online space, people like us, are going to be finding this stuff, finding it interesting, testing the grounds with it, innovating it, and doing it so much more quickly because we really can. We don't have as much red tape for a Hollywood executive who has to go through. We don't have unions to deal with either, which is another massive part of the equation here of something that they're going to have to cut through, which is why it's going to take them a lot longer to actually implement some of these things. And so I think you're going to see huge innovations in the online sphere before Hollywood eventually catches up. And then when eventually Hollywood does catch up, I mean, what are they really going to be able to offer at that point? It's a good question, I think.
Can I add to that real quick?
Yeah.
It's not just prompts. Remember, AI, like a lot of people look at AI and they go, oh, I put text into a thing and it pops out an image. AI is not just prompts. We talked about upscaling earlier. That utilizes AI. There's tools that clean up sound and give you a more high fidelity in your music or your audio. That uses AI. Just for sound alone, removing background noises and weird artifacts utilizes AI. You can train an AI to do a lot of things that would normally take someone who knows what they're doing, a professional, hundreds and hundreds of hours to scrub through, say, an audio clip to remove someone breathing for 2 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
The thing is, AI should be a tool that allows a creator to do things faster. Like, I wouldn't be able to put out these hour-long documentaries by myself, after Shane gives me the script, without the utilization of AI. I use AI to clean up audio. I use AI to scrub through hundreds of thousands of hours of Star Trek Voyager footage to look for that one scene where, 7 of 9 said illogical. You'd think that she would have said it 15 times. She said it once, dude. I'm going to watch the entire, I remember she saying it, but I don't remember where. This is what AI does. It allows a creator to do a better job in a shorter period of time. It's not just prompts. It's more like an assistant.
Just use it as a tool, right?
Right.
As a tool. Yeah. Absolutely.
Instead of having like a whole group of people that as assistants, you have this one thing that can do things a lot faster, but it can't do it by itself. It needs a creative.
It needs training, as you said.
It needs training.
It's funny because there is a free version that ChatGPT does, and so I uploaded a photo of myself the other day just to play around with it, and it's like, create me as a Templar knight. And though the knight part is really cool, the face, it's like, I kind of wish I looked like this, but that ain't me.
Right.
That's just some dude at a Templar show.
Yeah.
But still, like, it took that. And so if I had the skills of the prompt skills, right, to be able to ask for specific things, it could look more and more and more like me, right? But instead, it's like, if you just put in
like
the general
100
prompt,
hours
it's like,
to eventually get there, though.
we could be twins.
Well,
it would take you so much time. You could eventually just dress up. In the amount of time it would take you to train that thing to get your face right, you could dress up on your own and take a picture.
Yep, that's true.
What trips me out is, like Matt over here, he does our thumbnails and stuff for the channels we work at on, like our gaming channel and this channel and everything. And he has a whole series of thumbnails that he's made of me and Alex as these badass armored hell divers that make me look honestly really freaking good. Okay. I mean, I look amazing in these thumbnails.
Amazing. Yeah.
And I don't know how you do it. I don't know how these things work. Make Dutch Butters a hell diver. It's like, okay, I don't
If
get
only
it.
it was that
I don't
easy,
I don't understand it. I don't know how it works, but I find it fascinating, and it's a really cool tool to make you look kind of neat, But AI freaks me out because, honestly, I do believe we are just at the very beginning as a society here. We're shooting ourselves in the foot with this AI stuff. None of us are going to have jobs in another 10 years. I am literally at work every day. We're training an AI program to replace the 6 of us that are in there every night. And it's going to end up being, there's going to be 2 computer techs in there that are going to be running the entire surveillance department at the casino I work at here in a couple of years, because they're not going to need us. And I know that I'm not the only industry that this is affecting. I see stuff all over the casino that's going to be replaced by AI programs. It's crazy, and it's in every industry, guys. It's in every industry. Everything's changing.
But Butters, I wanted to ask you. So, I'm going to have to tell Odin to put the earmuffs on because I am going to talk about the adult industry eventually.
Please.
But you know, the adult industry has always been kind of at the forefront of getting their content out to people in the most innovative ways possible. And you know, like they were the ones who, you know, got VHS adoption going. They're the ones who basically had the Blu-ray wars won, you know, like stuff like that. And when it comes to AI, like there's definitely going to, like right now, all the major AI stuffs are putting like safeguards in there to keep people from using it for, you know, like pornography or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But then you know, you're going to have people like Brian who create their own AI without those restrictions and stuff like that. And so I could see the adult industry basically moving towards AI because, number one, they don't have to worry about STDs. They don't have to worry about dealing with crazy women. They don't have to worry about people showing up on time or anything like that. They can just literally generate, you know, user-generated content for the adult industry, like, you know, for next to nothing, right? So how do you think, you know, because you're the one who mentioned, like, I only think about like porn, like when I hear about, you know, the innovations in AI. How do you think that AI is going to, you know, affect the adult industry?
I think it's already affecting the adult industry. And listen, I am not a connoisseur or porn expert. It's really not my thing. But I do know that, like you said, they're going to be the innovators and the pushers of technology because, quite frankly, everybody on the planet spends money on porn, it seems like, and they make a crap ton of money in the porn business. So of course they're going to be the ones that push the limit and try to innovate and make things cooler, cheaper, and easier for people to get their eyes on than anything else. And it always seems like they're the ones that go first, right? So yeah, they're going to be the ones that push the limits of this technology, just like they always have been, like you said, with VHS and with DVDs and with Blu-rays and all that kind of stuff. It's always been the porn industry that starts this stuff up first, and it seems like Hollywood comes in afterwards and goes, "Oh yeah, I guess they're onto something here." So
they're already using it to upscale entire back catalogs of 60s, 70s, and 80s porn that was, you know, deemed almost unwatchable by most people because the quality. When they made porn back then, like they weren't, we need to keep the film masters so we can create a 4K version of this in 20 years. No, they just quickly made a porn. But so they're using AI right now to restore and upscale these long lost porn and creating an entire new set of viewers and fans of this retro style porn.
Well, they're even using it on Hollywood films, and that's where I got upset with James Cameron, because the one person who should know better than to trust AI trusted 3 of his most important films to AI, and he destroyed them. And here's the thing: we misuse the term AI. You know, it's supposed to stand for artificial intelligence. Well, it should mean, in most cases, like what Brian's describing, is assisted intelligence, not actual artificial intelligence. What we're actually thinking is AI, when it's creating something, is actually simulated intelligence. It's not actual intelligence, because it's just taking all this shit that's out there on the internet, mixing it up, spitting it out back at you as something new.
100%.
Okay.
True.
It's not actually something new. Now, the software, as far as like with the special effects and the stuff you guys mentioned before, that's definitely going to help the indie guys out. That's definitely going to push them forward and be able to do things that they've never been able to do before. But the industry, as long as they keep it to where anything that's AI cannot be copyrighted, the industry is going to be resistant to use it. And that's a good thing, because we don't want that to take over. I don't want to go to a theater and think, is this just an AI movie? Because if that's the case, I could have made it at home. Because you guys are right. Yes, we're still 10, 20 years away from this. But Hollywood is going to freak out the day that some kid sits in his basement, spends, 2 years redoing the entire Star Wars sequel trilogy, and it's 10 times better than anything Disney put out there. Then they will panic. Then they will go, what the hell are we going to do? Because this kid just made 3 movies better than we did for next to nothing in his basement in 2 years. So that's basically a third or fourth of the time that it took us to make those other movies, right? So yes, Hollywood needs to worry. It needs to be concerned with it. But at the same time, as long as the government keeps anything AI technically copyright free, where you can't technically copyright it like that, then I don't think there's going to be a problem. But I mean, it is getting scary close to the point where, like I said, I have this full review of Jaws the Revenge that Andre did, and I don't know if he's ever even watched Jaws the Revenge. So
Yeah.
I mean,
I
it's
want to
out
be
there.
able. I want to be able to sit down and watch an animated show or something AI created from that's based on the works of something that one of you guys created, or maybe like a Rippaverse series or something that they can that Eric can go in there and just type in some stuff and have it absorb Yaira #1 or whatever, and it's like all of a sudden it renders it 2 hours later we have a comic book or an animated series, or Matt could take his Earthman Jack stuff, and plug that in, and all of a sudden we have a 6-movie series of Matt's book series, stuff like. I think that's coming, right? I don't know how far away we are from that, but it's going to happen, and the technology's going to get there. So it's just I don't know.
Hey guys, we got a super chat from You Fuck That Beesh for $1.99. Brian, Joe Malozzi, Stargate Atlantis script.
Is that a news drift, or are you talking about the AI thing they did?
Probably the AI thing.
Yeah. I mean, so they did do a Stargate when AI was, when the whole the prompt writing AI. So there's so many different kinds of AI. So let's just be clear. The one that generates text, they did do a Stargate AI project where Joseph Malazzi and Brad Wright, Brad Wright being the creator of Stargate, basically plugged in, like the actual guys who wrote it, right? The original guys who wrote it, plugged in all their scripts and even spec scripts and scripts that they had never used for episodes or submitted into their own custom AI. And they trained it on their style and with those characters. And they went in and they even adjusted the characters to explain what their physical descriptions were, what their personalities were, what they would say in certain situations. They took a few months to actually train this AI to make the perfect Stargate script. And then they had it shoot out a script, and then they went and got the actors and they did this live read of the script. It was pretty cool. Yeah, and I gotta say, it was not bad. But after all that work, right? After months and months, I'm training this AI to create a script and getting them to read it. It still wasn't good. And it was a funny thing, as Brad Wright was like, in the months it took me to train this thing to write a Stargate script, I could have written a better script.
I'm still not convinced that the Kenobi series wasn't completely written by AI.
Yeah, I mean, I think certain episodes. I think what they did was they generated an episode, and then they took that and they punched it up as a human. That's what I think happened.
Well, I think
I think Kenobi would have been better if it had been written by AI. Actually,
I think as long as it remains a tool. I just want to say, I mean, I'm starting to give humanity a little bit more credit than a lot of people. I'm starting because I'm seeing it still looked at as in practical applications as a tool, as and not necessarily any substitute. In fact, I haven't seen any instances of even the inclination to have it substitute. It's always been it's like a tool. I can do this quicker and faster this way. But as soon as it starts getting into the realm, like Brian said, as soon as it starts getting into the realm of way too much time, way too many prompts, way too many corrections, I think that's when people are going to start moving away from that. But right now, it's still just a tool, and I think that's still a positive area.
Imagine if Matt didn't have Photoshop to help with those thumbnails. Imagine if you had to generate the thumbnails purely with AI. It would be impossible.
Guys, speaking of using AI to generate crappy stuff, let's talk a little bit about the Acolyte. Yes. So unfortunately, Dutch Butters has to bow out of the stream early today. So
you get to escape the Star Wars talk?
Well, no, he's not escaping. I'm going to make him talk about his takes on episodes 1 and 2 first and foremost. Dutch Butters, what did you think of the Acolyte episodes 1 and 2?
So, look, I do not have a lot to say about The Acolyte. I'm upset that you made me watch it. I'm perfectly content being the apathetic old man who was a fan of the original trilogy and be done with it. I've cut Star Wars out of my life. I changed my name. I'm shedding all my Star Wars. I don't want it around anymore. I'm sick of it. It's bad. It's just not good. This Acolyte stuff, I watched it a week ago or however long it was on, and I almost fell asleep. I was so bored. I go, oh look, they got a Carrie Ann Moss from The Matrix, and she's gone. Killed her immediately. I couldn't believe it. I probably should have known that was going to happen, but I've been kind of like not paying attention to anything that has to do with this show. All I saw was a bunch of DEI nonsense. I saw a bunch of really poorly written dialogue. I saw just a bunch of nothing. It was just a bunch of nothing. And I don't know what else to say about it. I was bored. I was really bored. And I think bored is the right word for, I mean, almost anything that Disney has been putting out here lately. Bored and uninspired. I think that's what my feelings are towards The Acolyte. It's what it was towards the Ahsoka show. It's what it felt like for Andor and for Kenobi. I just bored. And it's just none of it's good. None of it's good. And it all feels like they made it on that what's the machine
The volume.
Apparently the volume was only capable of making shots in dilapidated forests that have been burned down, because we have that shot in every single show that they make. You know what I'm talking about, right? So we're going to run through the trees and with lightsabers or something. I don't know, or a swamp or something. It just, none of it makes any sense. Yeah, bored. I don't like it. I don't want to watch the rest of it. I'm sure you're going to make us watch it every week, but if we weren't talking about it on this show, I wouldn't even be bothering with it. So that's really all I got. It's just not good.
So if you were to give a rating to the first 2 episodes, what would you give it?
Some of the music was pretty good, but the music actually felt like it was recycled out of the movies and there was nothing new there. So I'll give it a point for that, because it's John Williams inspired, if not just completely ripped off. So I'll 2 out of 10. So I think that's about right. 2 out of 10. So.
All right. Well, Mr. Butters, I know you have to get going. What's going on the Salty Nerd Gaming channel nowadays?
Oh, we're all about Helldivers over there, man. We're doing like live streams late night, like 3-4 nights a week. Alex has a stream coming up. I think he's going to do a stream today. We're doing the Salt Divers podcast on Tuesdays. That's a quick little podcast we do. It's like 30-35 minutes long, where we just talk about our experiences for the week and upcoming orders and patches and stuff like that. It's fun. We're making a really fun community over there on our Discord, and we're playing with people in Discord, and we're just having a good time. The game has some issues. It's got a long ways to go, but it's scratching a weird itch that we all are kind of enjoying over there. It's a really fun community. It's very social, and get together and kill bugs and robots. It's a lot of fun. So yeah.
All right. Well, Mr. Butters, thank you for joining us on the panel today.
All right, man.
Godspeed to you, sir. We will talk
again.
Soon.
Actually, I will not be here next week. I'm going on a long trip, and I will see you guys in a couple of weeks. Okay.
Yep. Take it easy, man. Have a good trip.
Later, Dutch Butters.
Peace out.
Have a good one, bud.
I miss Matt Vader.
He's dead.
How dare you dead name him?
Tom, go watch Furiosa.
That name no longer has any meaning for me now.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, Brian from the Popcast, you just got done watching Star Trek Discovery Season 5, and now we're watching The Acolyte. So what is your take on the first 2 episodes?
Everything sucks. I hated everything. No, I mean, I just finished Discovery, then I had to watch Acolyte, and I feel like every time I go to watch TV, I'm being punished by someone. It sucks. When the episode started with whatever her name is,
Carrie Ann Moss.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie Ann Moss. I actually like Carrie Ann Moss's character a little bit. I thought she looked sort of like a Jedi. It sort of works. And that whole fight, it felt like that fight was like, why is all of a sudden this character so weak? It felt like this character was really weak. I didn't see the black chick actually use any force powers. Everyone was like, she clearly was using the force. I never saw that. And maybe I missed it when I looked away or something. I don't know. But I did like that scene, and pretty much it went downhill. The second you kill that character off, things don't make sense. Like, her twin sister is in space in a spaceship, and somehow the bartender on the planet is like pointing her out as the person that did it. Like, a lot of plot issues didn't make sense. When she ended up on the prison transport ran by droids, I said this in my review, having a prison transport ran exclusively by droids is such a horrible idea. It's like, it's a really bad idea. But I did like the concept. Like, it felt like a very Star Wars concept. Like, Star Wars they've often had bad ideas when it comes to droids. So I was cool with it. But I didn't like the character, and I think you're supposed to like the character, but even the good sister version of that character, Oshi or May or whatever her name is, you don't like her. She's supposed to be likable, but you don't see her as very capable. They don't actually give you any time to like that character. So the most you can feel for her is apathy throughout her entire the start of this adventure that she's having. And it just doesn't work. And then you get like the one white guy in the entire series who's a Jedi that literally killed himself because of his guilt. It's like, how on the nose do you gotta be here, bro? So the first couple episodes were crap. I'm gonna watch the third episode for one reason, because I heard that there's two lesbians. I don't know why I made that motion.
Scissoring.
I can't imagine why. Yeah.
I didn't mean it. That was totally involuntary, by the way. Like, it was just, I talk with my hands and I was like, there's two lesbians. There's two lesbians that have a child because the Force gives them the ability to have a child together. And if that happens, I can't wait to see it. Oh, it's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. So I'm just really hoping that they fully commit to the hyper woke mentality.
That's what happened with Shmi Skywalker, though, right? Like, the Force was the immaculate conception of Anakin.
Right. So they're probably going to use that to let two women have a child. So I'm here for it, bro.
Yeah, maybe.
Great.
So, when I was watching these two episodes, what struck me as very shocking is from the very first shot of this series. This looks so freaking cheap. Like it literally looks like the type of thing that a YouTuber would make in their backyard with like a green screen, right? Like the production quality on this thing looked so bad for like the entire run of both these episodes. I was just kind of like shocked at how amateurish it appeared, especially considering the fact that they apparently spent $160 million on this season of the show. So I want to throw this to you, Sean, because you're a filmmaker, you've made a movie, you kind of specialize in digital backgrounds and Unreal Engine and stuff like that. How can a $160 million TV show look this cheap and amateurish?
Well, all right. So I wanted to ask, what specifically were you referring to?
Well, I mean, like, there are often times where the background, like, you can obviously tell that the lighting's off and, like, they're not blended into the background properly. It feels like it almost feels like cell phone camera video at certain times. Was the camera being used to like film stuff? The lighting's flat. There's all types of stuff in this thing. Like nothing feels lived in. All like the costumes feel like they're fresh off the rack. All the sets feel like they're fake. Like there's just something about the production value of this show that screams low quality to me.
Okay, so first of all, I want to set this up, and I was, I'll set it up this way. I wasn't nearly as offended by the shows as I thought I was going to be. From everything I've heard, there's all of these things, right? And definitely there's a lot of dialogue that's very cringe. And there's a lot of, there's some of the plot points are silly. But in terms of overall, it felt familiar. It felt to me like, from a story standpoint and a plot standpoint, I've seen all of these done in films and even plays before. So there was not really anything original to it. In terms of the production value, I got the sense that, and remember, to set it up for other people too, I am not a Star Wars fan. I've never been. I mean, I appreciate the franchise for what it used to be and everything, but I was always a Star Trek fan. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm completely open to it. From what I understand, this is a century before what we know to be like the New Republic and things like that. So I would think that things would be a little bit cleaner and more off the rack in terms of the costuming. I got the sense that there were some things that were maybe overlit or uneven. But one thing I noticed, I mean, that they're using anamorphic lenses. It looks great in terms of the cinematography. There were certain things that did look lived in, and I mean, that's the thing. I'm not really sure exactly what you're focusing on in terms of low quality production value, because I'd have to get really specific and look at it again. But on first watching, just kind of going in with my eyes wide open and trying to absorb it, I didn't really find too much out of place, not being a person that was dedicated to Star Wars. I didn't see anything that really, I think the CGI effects, the exteriors and stuff like that look like the space shots and the ships and stuff like that look relatively consistent. I've seen a heck of a lot worse. So I wasn't really, nothing drew me out to make me think, oh my God, that is so terrible. That was the surprising thing for me. I wasn't shocked at anything that is standing out as so horrible to be unwatchable. Surprisingly enough, I'm the crab apple critic.
I'm kind of surprised. Like, you didn't notice all like the copy and pasted skyscrapers when they did Coruscant.
I did.
Establishing shots, and you didn't. I go back to Andor, where like Andor felt like it was taking place in the Star Wars universe. It felt gritty. It felt real. This thing felt so kind of like shot on a soundstage CW style cinematography. Like everything just felt like a fan film almost.
No, I looked at it and I was like, there was obviously some things wrong, but like, well, obviously there's going to be a lot of cut and paste, but nothing really jumped out at me. I wasn't watching from the standpoint of this is so terribly bad. I was trying to look at it as objectively as I could from somebody who's outside of the Star Wars fandom. And honestly, I didn't see anything that really jumped out at me that was like terrible. I thought that the Jedi costumes seemed pretty good. Somebody had mentioned before in something I had watched the bamboo armor, and I thought, okay, yes, that's what it looks like. It's not terrible though. It's kind of an interesting design.
Well, I'm going to point out some of the real terrible stuff.
Okay, yeah, that's what I mean. Get specific so I can,
So first of all, like I was live tweeting as I was watching this thing, and every time I noticed something really fucking stupid or nonsensical, I would tweet about it. And I've been actually getting a lot of traction on those tweets. So Odin, here's a list of things that I kind of pegged as I was like watching this show, and I would like to hear your take on them as well as your opinion about the show itself. So first of all, you have two twin sisters separated by, what is it, like 13, 14 years, 8 years, something like that. They both have the exact same hairstyle. The bad one has a couple extensions in the back that makes it a little bit longer, but it's obvious that they did this so they wouldn't have to keep changing her hair or put a wig on her every time she had to like play a different role. So I thought that was kind of weird that these sisters separated for so many years just have the exact same hairstyle. Secondly, there was a fire in the vacuum of space. It was a raging campfire that just was hanging out in the absence of oxygen until she put it out with a fire extinguisher droid that basically kills it by sucking all the oxygen away, right? You have a situation here where the Jedi come to this spaceship. First of all, the quote unquote racist accent of the Trade Federation aliens was conspicuously absent in this interpretation. But in addition to that, you have a Jedi Knight and his Padawan show up to basically arrest the sister who their one eyewitness says killed this Jedi. And you would think that the killing of a Jedi Master, which is pretty much unheard of at this point in the Star Wars lore, would warrant like a group of like highly skilled Jedi warriors to go and make this arrest. But instead they send this one guy with the rooster haircut, the Killmonger haircut, and his Padawan, which Gary appropriately named Jenny Nicholson because she looks exactly like her, to basically like question this former Jedi Padawan. And none of this makes any sense to me because they could have easily checked to see like, hey, how did she get off the ship and then back on the ship after she did this excursion to murder people? Like there would have been some type of like record or some type of thing that was noticeable about her, disappearing to go and supposedly murder the procedural aspect of this thing was stupid. And the very first episode ends with the reveal of was it Smilo Ren is what they're calling him, the new bad guy, where he's like, you cannot kill a Jedi with a weapon or steel or laser, and we're like, she literally did that at the beginning of the episode, literally killed a Jedi with steel. Yep. And also like the one little tiny dagger to the chest. It's like we've seen how many Jedi get run through the gut with a lightsaber, and they just
with a lightsaber.
Yeah,
everything's cool.
They rub some dirt on it. They're fine. But at
least their inconsistency is consistent.
Yeah. But also, I was kind of surprised at the way that each episode ended. Like Leslie Headland, who wrote and directed both these episodes, apparently doesn't know how to properly end an episode because it just kind of like, boom, just ends. And she's trying to do this thing where it's like these big reveals, but like nobody really cares about them. And then the worst part to me was like, so in episode 2, they go to see this Jedi Master who I guess is stationed on like a local temple somewhere. And he's just sitting there meditating. And he's so strong with the Force that you can't even like touch him because the Force is just repelling every single attack. But this guy, like when he first came on the screen, so he's played by the actor who played Tommen in Game of Thrones, who was like the youngest Lannister kid to kind of like sit the throne. And it's so obvious that this guy has a pasted on beard. He's got like this bad balding wig. Like he looks like a 20-year-old who they tried to make look like an 80-year-old. It was almost laughable, like how he looked. And I know that like, you have to age him up for the purposes because they're going to be flashbacks and stuff like that. But at the same time, I'm like, dude, you spent $160 million on this, and this is the best makeup you could do. Like you could go in there with like a CGI deep fake and do like a better, older version of this guy than what we had there. But in addition to that, when the Jedi kind of find the fake apothecary who's teaming up with May to kill these Jedi, they're just like, hey man, if you don't tell us what you know, we're going to punish you. And he's like, okay, here's what I know. And they're like, okay, well, stick around and don't do anything crazy, or else we're going to have to arrest you. And he's like, okay. And then like he helps May escape, and the Jedi are just, they have like, the fat Jedi keeping an eye on him from like across the street. And the minute the fat Jedi's distracted, the guy just like, bounces, and they're like, oh, where did our one suspect go? Like, none of this stuff.
Oh no! Where did
Yeah,
they?
none of this stuff makes any freaking sense to me. So, Odin, what do you think of all these very blatant, stupid things that are in the show? And what was your opinion about the first 2 episodes?
Oh, I completely agree. I think we could all agree the worst part about this show is the writing. Because the writing, when we say that the writing is bad, I think that people can't quite understand just how understated that even itself is, because it's just that poorly written. But even going to those other things, right? The fire in space, the costuming even, right? So a lot of the times you notice this, especially in shows where they clearly have no creative juices flowing. Everything looks so super clean. Like I was looking at some of the costuming, I'm like, wow, that looks like it came off the costume rack. That looks like it just came off the costume rack. Oh, look at that. And that's especially problematic when you're dealing with someone who's supposed to be playing twins who are on the good side, bad side, separated by many, many years. I understand that twins separated at birth oftentimes still have very similar personality traits, like can oftentimes still have those genetic, because of the genetic similarities, there's obviously a lot of connections that they can still have, but they're still different people, right? And you didn't feel any of those differences really, other than the lines that they had and where they were. I honestly couldn't tell that they were 2 different people. Like that's again how poorly acted that part was. We really honestly did not see too many distinguishing factors between them. And you could have done something very simple, not even just hair. You could have done something as simple as having, I know that it's oversimplified, but a scar, right? Sometimes that's what happens, right? Sometimes the only differentiating factor is like something so small like that, but at least it'd be something, and at least there might have been a story behind it. But we got nothing. We got absolutely nothing with this. And I think that the writing really honestly like made me want to bash my head against the wall several times, because in the very beginning of the first episode, when you have this fight sequence going on, and she's like, attack me, right? And she has that like supposed to be formidable.
Attack me with all your power.
Attack me with all your power, all your might. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, now I'm going to run. And I'm like, wait a minute. You were just like, look how much of a badass I am. And all of a sudden you're just going to run away. And it was like, okay. And like every fight, that's what happened. Like she was like, look how awesome I am. Oh, run away. Like it just, honestly, I was like, am I supposed to feel like she's a threat? Like even when she finally actually kills Carrie Moss, I was like, how did she kill her? Like it's so clear that she has no even, not even close to being equal in power to her. And yet she beats her with just one little tiny knife. And I know the explainers, like the Star Wars explainers out there are like, well, it was a direct shot to the heart, okay? And so therefore it would have to kill her. It's like, yes, but you know what else would have to kill somebody? A lightsaber right to the gut, being there for a long period of time, right? If it was just a quick little whoop, whoop, okay, maybe you could argue something, but that's not what happened in these previous things. And so you have that going on for it, and oh my goodness, one of my favorite writing parts of the show actually is after the guy kills himself because of white guilt, because that's exactly what he did. He killed himself out of white guilt. There's this brief moment where it's supposed to be written as, oh, she's there, she finds the poison, it's her, all for just the random, really terrible guy who should never have been called a Jedi Knight at any point, just comes casually around the corner, like at a very random part saying, it wasn't her, I had my eyes on her the whole time. And the whole time I'm like, wait a minute, did they honestly just try to play that off in the way that they did? Because even I was on the screen, I was like, yeah, no one in their right mind would have bought any of this stuff happening at this point. So the writing of this show, honestly, I am honestly embarrassed for them with them actually greenlighting this and allowing this to go forward because of how poorly put together it is. It feels cheap. And it's not just that it feels cheap visually. It feels cheap in the writing. It feels like a fan fiction by someone who's not a fan, which means essentially it is nothing. They spent, $22.5 million an episode on nothing. It's a show that's not going to be remembered. It's a show that most people, I'm going to be very interested to see how many of these critics who gave these rave reviews actually stick around for the whole show, because we all know typically they don't. And it's just going to fall into it. I also got a lot of Rings of Power vibes into it, because honestly, I think that the guy who was the fake apothecary, I was getting like Sauron vibes from him. I was like, oh, is this going to be like the Sauron guy where it's like, oh, he was the big bad the entire time?
Yeah, he's Smilo Ren.
Yeah, exactly.
Smilo Ren.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest issues to me when watching this show was how inconsistent the timeline is in this thing. So basically, they arrest May on the Trade Federation ship, right? They put they don't, the Jedi don't take her in themselves. Like the Jedi Knight and his trained Padawan do not guard the Jedi killer, the supposed Jedi killer, on their own ship as they go back to Coruscant. They put her on a random prison transport that has other prisoners on it, and it's automated by droids, right? And during her travels from the ship where she was arrested to Coruscant, there's a prison break, okay? And the prisoners all escape on escape pods as the ship that May is on crash lands onto a planet from orbit, by the way.
That was OSHA, right?
Yeah.
Not May.
I'm sorry, OSHA.
Yeah.
May's the evil one.
Onto an ice planet. Very original.
Onto an ice planet. So OSHA survives a crash from the atmosphere onto an ice planet. And in the meantime, the Jedi Knight and his Padawan, who originally arrested her, make their way back to Coruscant. And the prisoners who escaped from the shuttle are already there, right? Like they've already been picked up somehow. And then they're like, OSHA crash landed on this planet. We need to mount an expedition to go and retrieve her. And so they then leave with Squid Game's guy and go back to the planet. And it's like OSHA just woke up and she's like, oh, I survived. Maybe I should escape out into the wild tundra from my shelter and, see if I can get away from these Jedis who just showed up. And this whole thing, people bouncing around, basically teleporting from place to place, it's all so in service to the plot that it's insulting.
Brings
it's
like power vibes, right?
Well,
it's like, how long does it take to get to one place?
Yeah, exactly. Well, even Game of Thrones would start teleporting in later seasons. There's all this stuff in here that's just like such lazy writing, and the dialogue itself is just like so bad. Like when OSHA finds the dead Jedi Master who poisoned himself, right? She comes in and she instantly starts investigating, but somehow, even though she was behind the group that was being led directly to that chamber, she somehow gets there way ahead of them, like enough time to do her own little investigation. And then when they come into the chamber, they're like, oh, you killed this Jedi Master who can't be touched by the Force. And then like the rooster
terrible night.
Killmonger basically comes in and is like, hey, I was watching her the whole time. She's innocent.
And the timing of it is so bad.
Yeah.
You're just like, wait a minute. I see what you're trying to do, but why did you do it? There was no need to do it that way.
Like that suspicion was instantly dismissed and within the scene itself. And so it's like, why even bother doing that if it's not going to have any ramifications later on in the episode?
Can I mention something? Because this is what I was talking about with the cut and pasting. I saw more cut and paste in the writing of it than anything else. I mean, it certainly has an awful lot of things that I've seen hundreds of times in both television, motion pictures, and plays. So it seems like Headland took like a bunch of stuff that was very popular and adapted it to this world. And so that's probably where the inconsistencies lie. A lot of people, they've touched on the bartender recognized her, right? Well, this was the whole reason behind the mask thing. The mask was a plot device so that Carrie-Anne Moss didn't immediately recognize her attacker. But in the original stories where that plot device has been used before, they didn't have a mask. She just tried to figure out a way to make
But-
it so that she wouldn't
yeah,
be immediately recognized.
But Sean, what's crazy about this is like, so watching this without context, this was originally kind of supposed to be like a murder mystery, but
Mhm.
they instantly killed the mystery on this stuff. And you would think like, oh, May is trying to frame OSHA by like revealing her face and leaving a witness alive. But then at the same time, it's like she didn't know her sister was alive. The Squid Games guy, he's like, you know, he's asked, do you believe that that OSHA's twin could still be alive? He's like, no, she's dead. I saw her die. And then when he saves OSHA from falling off that cliff,
5 minutes later.
yeah, she's like, it must be May, my twin. She's still alive. He's like, I believe you.
Well,
like
I
in the
didn't
span
say-
of 2 minutes.
I didn't say it was done. I didn't say it was done well. What I'm saying is that
Well,
from a story standpoint, it's obviously cut and pasted from a bunch of other things that pre-existed, not in Star Wars. And I don't think she was paying a lot of attention to the previous shows, like the
But
lightsaber going through the gut. She wasn't paying any
you know
attention
what
to that.
though? You know what? I saw this tweet, and it was a tweet that summed up the writing of the show so perfectly, where it was the gif of you know, the fire in space on the ship.
Yes.
And the tweet basically said, this is what happens when no one's around to mansplain to the writers. And it's like someone in the writers' room should have just said like, hey, we can't have a fire in the vacuum of space, right?
When I
But-
saw that,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, there's only this obviously came from the same writers of Star Trek Discovery. But when I saw that, I was thinking, okay, if they had done the effect differently, what they could have done was it was some type of fire because of a hull breach, and it was just sucking oxygen from it, but it would look totally different. It would look, you know, very fast, and it wouldn't look like a campfire, which I was looking at it and I was thinking, well, wait a minute, why is she wearing the helmet if the campfire is just sitting there? And I mean, because obviously there's oxygen coming from somewhere, but it was just really bad. It was a way to take a plot device, so here's the thing, this thing of the fire triggering a memory. This has been done at least a dozen times in other cinematic and television episodes.
no.
So it's been, and that's exactly why it was put in there. The logic doesn't have to follow because Leslie Headland just doesn't see it where the
Yeah,
plot
Could have
is
put it
problem
inside the
is.
ship.
Yeah,
If she's
yeah.
like-
Exactly. That
It's
would have
like
made
a
more
bad
sense.
Yeah,
But
well,
they wanted
maybe
the
she doesn't
spacewalk.
know. That's the question. Maybe she doesn't know that fire can't be in space. I have to ask that question. How many people just like, because if to us it's like feels like common knowledge that without
Yeah.
oxygen there's no fire. But what if there are like a large swath of people who legitimately think that fire can be in space because they grew up watching Marvel?
Also,
movies?
don't they have a writer's room? Like, don't they have like the whole story
No.
group that's meant to be like
That's
making sure-
gone. That's
Oh,
gone.
okay. Well, they need to
Yeah.
bring it back. Okay, bring the nerds back. Okay, because you need to have
No,
some
that's 100%
nerds.
the problem is you don't have
Yeah.
men in there to mansplain this
Exactly.
shit, people. And Brian is right. You have
Bring the
people
nerds back.
Leslie freaking Headland in there who doesn't understand this shit. These are the same people who grow up and that's all they do is watch TV and movies. They don't have a real education. They don't
We
know how
need more
fucking
books. We need to
science
bring
works.
bullies back to
The
high
people
school.
who
and
believe
nerds
the
back to the
science,
writers' room.
remember? Like, anyway, I don't want to get into that, but
Bullies
but
will
yeah.
make nerds better, and
Yeah.
nerds will make Hollywood
Yes.
better.
Yeah,
we need
guy-
bullies back in high school. Let's start there.
guys, like one of the worst parts to me was in episode 2, where basically May infiltrates the local Jedi temple. She uses like a young street rat to distract the droid that's guarding the door, and then she sneaks in. She tries to kill Tommen, who's meditating with his bad wig and his pasted on beard, and she realizes she can't touch him. And before the Jedi guard can come in, she parkours her way out through like the skylight or whatever. And then they're like, "Oh, someone matching your OSHA's description just tried to assassinate this Jedi master." And it's like, she did everything she could to get in there undetected, and nobody saw her. So how did this description get out there? Then they captured the street rat, and they're like holding the street rat, until like the Jedi people can show up to interrogate her. It was just like there was so much stuff that just happened because the plot needed it to happen.
And then
And
she
that's
comes
just-
back in the
droids
same.
are bad at their jobs. Like they're bad at being guards for anything. Let's stop doing that.
Also,
Like,
they know this
yeah.
happens, and then they just leave the place that she escaped open for her just to come right back in. And what that whole moment, like of the whole like, oh, he kills himself, right? The whole like white guilt imagery
analogy,
is so stupid because wait a minute, why didn't he have that immediate reaction when she first arrived? Because if he felt guilt, he would have sensed her right away and would have been like, I'm sorry. But instead, no, he's like, oh, no, I have to wait for her to leave to go get poison to come back. So then I can sense it. Again, none of it makes any sense.
Yeah.
At all.
Also, there's a lot of issues with using the Force as plot devices. So like these Jedi can use the Force to read people's minds. So like, why bother interrogating anyone? Just like mind rape them like right off the bat. Also, if you're so powerful with the Force that no one can frickin' touch you, it's like, why don't all Jedi in a battle just sit there with like a laser gun? And it's like, you can't touch me. Zap, zap, zap. You know, like, what do they need a freaking lightsaber?
Put them in the front line. If that's all you need to do, have 10 Jedi all meditating in the front line, and all of a sudden, boom, you have an impenetrable Force.
Remember Qui-Gon's quote to Padme where he's like, I can't fight a war for you. It's like, yeah you can. If literally nothing can touch you.
You 100% can.
Well, we don't have a lot of historical precedent for this particular character. We don't know how old he is. One of the things that kind of about that, which, like I said, I've seen the old master doing the meditation, and
he's younger than Yoda.
I get it. I get it. But that's the thing. I don't really know how the Force works. I was kind of wondering when she like manipulated the guy into or reading his thoughts. I was thinking, is that a thing in the Force? I don't know.
It's not supposed to be. Like they're just making stuff up for the Force to do as
right.
They go.
Okay. So it's the space magic that they're using. But the thing about it really is, since we don't know a lot about this character or what they're doing or any historical precedent for this, and since I don't have any prior knowledge other than watching the original films when they came out and then the sequel trilogies, I just kind of like, okay, whatever. But honestly, it wasn't, it felt like a hodgepodge of about 100 different stories I've seen unfold, done better because they all followed their own logic within those stories. This one here just felt like a whole bunch of stories, plot devices clashing together and making a story, but it honestly wasn't as horrified as I thought I was going to be going into it. I was looking at it and I was just like,
well, I'll tell you one thing. Like if they had stuck with the premise that it's a mystery and something's killing Jedi, and there's like this Jedi and some like, you know, Republic police officer who are like going around investigating the stuff, trying to uncover the mystery. Like I think that would have been a far more thing,
absolutely.
As opposed to Leslie Headland, who basically said, I wanted to do Frozen meets Kill Bill. And that was like kind of like her, you know, her mandate on this. But I want to throw this a little bit, and we're going to be getting to super chats in a second, guys. But I want to throw this to the expertise of Odin and Tom real quick as we talk about Disney bragging about the Acolyte's view numbers. And this was an article that basically came out in Variety that said that the Acolyte reaches 4.8 million views in one day, the biggest Disney Plus launch of 2024. And every single Disney show
Thursday afternoon.
Yeah,
when
and
the moon is in full.
Every Disney show on Twitter was retweeting this number, which came from Disney itself, by the way, as proof positive that Star Wars is awesome. This show is amazing. It's so good. So, Tom, we know for a fact that Hollywood likes to fudge their view numbers, especially when it comes to streaming. Can you give us a breakdown on what this actually means, 4.8 million views in one day?
Well, according to Zack Snyder, it means they would have made $48 billion. No, like this is just a bunch of Fugazi kids. Let's be real. I mean, comparing this to even other shows, like people have started pulling out the numbers of other things, and it's like, yeah, this is not even on the same level of some of the other Disney shows. So, I mean, I'm kind of joking there to where, like, you know, it's the number one show on a Tuesday after 3 when a 2-year-old is sleeping and you can watch TV, you know, whatever little stipulation you can hedge in there to say it's number one something or other. It's just Fugazi. I mean, 4 point some million views in 24 hours or whatever it was. Okay. That's not big. That's okay. I mean, that's the kind of numbers. That's how many people were watching Enterprise when Enterprise was canceled, for instance. I mean, like over 100 some million people watched MASH, the finale, right? So let's put that on a level. Like on an average week, Big Bang Theory would bring in 20 million viewers, right? So this ain't nothing. This is just above CW level at best. Because I mean, the other thing is they're combining these numbers. Isn't that what's going on, Odin, from the two episodes? So you might know a little bit more about that.
Well,
I just found this hilarious right here.
Well, hold on a second. I just want to point out to the audience. So streaming numbers are very odd. What they tend to do is they tend to prioritize watch time more than anything. Disney Plus has supposedly 65 million subscribers to it. It might be a little bit more now, but 65 million subscribers worldwide. Of those 65 million, the show got 4.8 million views in one day. And what they count as views is basically they count the amount of time that the show was watched divided by its runtime to get like full views. So we don't actually know how many of these things were partial views that were kind of like combined together to get that full view number. And we don't know how many people who started watching actually completed the episode or completed both episodes. So this is very misleading, but I want to throw this to our numbers expert, Odin. Odin, take it away.
Well, because you took away a bit of my steam because I was about to talk about that very thing. Anyway, but I went back in time a little bit, and I was like, okay, I wonder what other views they have reported. And so this is Ahsoka draws 14 million views for first episode. This was a press release they put out back August 29th. And then they themselves put 14 million views, making the series #1 globally on the streaming platform. And then they even had to say, asterisk, a view is defined as total stream time divided by runtime available. So it's like, basically, they're throwing out these numbers. At least they're being upfront with what math they're using. But I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. They're using basically just Fugazi numbers here. Just random... random iterations, and obviously they're not following the standard by which all other platforms use. I always am a little bit. I'm always very cautious when looking at numbers being reported in a way that goes against how all other persons and all other, like as you mentioned, most streaming services are going to report hours. Right? Watch hours, because then at least you could take something from that, right? You can at least do something and figure it out. But when you're talking about views, right, they're using that word because it makes them think, oh, 14 million people watched it. Oh my gosh. But then they have to, again, for legal reasons, probably have to put the asterisk. Well, actually, it's the total stream time divided by the run time. So it could actually not indicate the number of people at all. That's just this random metric that we've decided to use, right? It would be like if we decided to create an equation to say, oh, well, instead of saying how many people viewed our content, we're going to choose like, oh, well, we had X amount of minutes watched, which is just, oh, look, I mean, those minutes watched, you just look at that, right? It's again being disingenuous, and I can't say I'm surprised that Disney is doing this.
Also, when you factor in the fact that these episodes are like sub 30 minutes or around 30 minutes, the question then becomes like, okay, did you divide the number of watch time by an hour over 2 episodes, or was it 1 30-minute runtime, which could have fudged them?
Not to mention the fact that there's a good 5 to 10 minutes of credits. So that's a part of that is a part of the episode time. And so are they using that also? Right.
I noticed that too, because the credits seemed like when I stopped it, there was an awful lot of space left. And I'm like, they're dedicating all this to credits. Why? I mean, it just seemed to be kind of, I don't know.
I don't know if they count the back end, because a lot of times that's where you get a lot of the credits for all the translations and all that stuff too, is what I was going to say.
Yeah, I do think that they count the main credits, right, or the total runtime. But I want to throw this to Brian.
Hey,
Brian, do you think that Disney is fudging these numbers to try to, say that the Acolyte is more popular than it is?
Yes, 100%. Like, I don't have much else to say other than like, Disney has only the benefit and we don't have access to real information. Why would they not just say that? Like, you're in the business of getting people to sign up to your platform. This is a super popular show. Everyone loves it. Come watch it. I mean, like, we've been doing this for a long time. How long do movies put on the poster the best quote by that one reviewer that almost no one knows, or that one magazine, that one news outlet or whatever, but they don't put the other, 65 quotes that said this is a steaming pile of human excrement? Of course, like, this is just the new way of promoting your platform and your new show. Like, there's no reason for them to tell us the truth. Why are they going to come out and be like, this is the worst show we've ever had? People left after watching 2 episodes. They unsubscribed. No,
actually, that might be a great way to market it. Like, you can get it. This is a really lousy show. Come and watch it and hate watch it with us, or something like that. I don't know, because there's a lot of that going on.
I do think that there should be a service out there that, some kind of website that gives real information on these streaming platforms and these streaming shows, because we cannot see their numbers and they're never going to release them. Remember they fought a whole strike over these numbers being public to the agents and the actors and the creatives involved. They don't want them to be public because it's a way for them to not only misinform the public to their own benefit, but also hide money in taxes and fudge the numbers. These numbers can never be public. They can never be out there. They need to be behind that wall.
Also, I did some digging and I found a Hollywood Reporter article that goes into it, because it talks about how for Extraction, for instance, Extraction 2, Netflix actually started to do something similar where it talked about a certain number of hours, but then also a certain number of views. And it goes on to say here about this, that does not mean, however, that 42.8 million Netflix users watched Extraction 2 from start to finish in its first week. Some people might have watched it multiple times, while others may have bailed after 20 minutes. Might and may are necessary because all the view equation really shows is the number of complete runs contained in the total viewing time. So you could have actually had a bunch of people watch it for maybe a minute or 2, and then they put that in. And if you get 60 of those, or I guess in this specific instance, if you get 30 of those, that counts as full run time. So that counts as a view if 30 people watch a minute of the show. So that's basically what this math is trying to say. So yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, it's very creative mathematics here. Real quick, we got a few more things I'm going to ask the panel about, but I need to get to some super chats here. So we have Latino Slant for $5. I will be on Paulie's show on Monday, so be sure to check that out. What's going on, panel? Are you all real AI? Am I really typing this? Find out this Monday night as I host Matt and the Salty Boys, or AI of them. Yes, I'm going to send my AI avatar to guest host on Latino Slant. It should be a lot of fun. Thank you for the $5, Paulie. Really appreciate it. Then we have You're on Falth. Did I get that right? We got some 20 crones. Did you know shit happens? Many shit at Disney. Yes, Disney is full of shit. Then we have Fluffy Panda, the head of the Brian Popcast Guy fan club, for $5. Watching the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte must be what it's like having sex with Brian, and there's no pineapple pizza afterwards.
Let me tell you something, Panda. If you're saying that sex with me is rough and unbearable, then you're probably right.
Yes, and full of plot holes, right?
full of plot holes.
Having sex with Brian,
and fire in space.
It's like fire in space.
Fire in space,
exactly.
yes.
You Fook Dat Biche for $1.99. Acolyte is like Joe Biden in France, just pooping his pants left and right. Yes, indeed.
Oh God.
I'm thinking real hard.
Yep. Yoran Falth for 50 crones. Trained Jedi for many centuries I did. Too busy to show up. I am. Yoda. Yes.
Cost too much, I do.
Yes. Where is Yoda?
Yeah.
Gotta wonder. Fluffy Panda for $5. At this point, Disney better be laundering money. This level of incompetence is being stuck in an elevator with Brian levels bad. Hating JW4 bad.
Damn.
I'm guessing that's John Wick 4 bad.
Yeah.
Don't want to be stuck in an elevator with Brian, especially if you're having sex with him. So.
Oh my gosh.
You're on
That
false
took a turn.
for
Or
50
sex in the
crones.
elevator. I'm just saying, Fluffy, we could do this, man.
Poison I drink. Many man try to touch me. Force field I have. New ability I forgot. Yes. None of that made any sense to me. Like
You're
the show is so terribly, terribly written. I don't get it anymore. But guys, before we get out of here, there was one more thing that I wanted to touch on, particularly because we have Tom on the panel, and that is Bad Boys, Ride or Die, is Will Smith making a comeback? And we actually have this article from the Hollywood Reporter here talking about how Will Smith is kind of using the early buzz of this movie to start reaching out for new movie roles. If you guys are interested in Will Smith's potential comeback, I highly recommend that you check out this article. It's linked in the description. But he's basically saying that, like, you know, he moved away from like the big budget popcorn movies to try to get an Oscar. So he was doing like more serious roles, and that kind of ate away at his fan base because, like, you know, he's ceased to become a box office draw. And then once he won the Oscar, he did that slap thing, and people were just like, I don't want to hire this guy. And he did a ton of damage to his personal brand. And so a lot of people are looking at Bad Boys as like his, you know, his return to form. In fact, they make a joke about the slap in the movie, apparently. And now his people are reaching out to try to find more bigger profile roles for him. So Tom Connors, I know that you've gotten a chance to see Bad Boys, Ride or Die. What was your take on the movie? And do you think Will Smith is going to be able to make a comeback?
Well, first things first, as far as the movie goes, I was actually kind of surprised how good it was. It had a lot of fun. Yes, there is a joke that does play with the slap a bit, and more than just a bit. And it's actually a really fun scene in the film. And the movie, yes, it does have that air of we're trying to rebuild Will Smith, but that also works well into the plot of the film. And if you were a fan of the last one, you're definitely going to like this one. And Martin Lawrence is amazing in it. He's funny as hell. And there's some other great characters from the past that get some shining moments in this film. My only real complaint was that, you know, Teresa Randall wasn't in the film, but then I found out afterwards she's had some issues lately. We couldn't pinpoint exactly what, whether it was mental, drug related, or health issues. But other than that, no, the movie was fun. It was under 2 hours. I'm surprised that it's doing as well as it is. I mean, I know it's not doing quite as well as Bad Boys for Life did, but considering the box office right now and a lot of excuses that people want to make, I think that this is pretty good for this movie, and it didn't have a huge budget, so it'll probably do pretty well. And plus Sony sells their movies to Netflix and stuff like that, so it'll get money from that too. So chances are this movie's not going to lose any money. As far as Will Smith making a comeback, honestly, I wonder if outside of the US and outside of people like us, if they really give a shit about the slap. Because I have a feeling this film will do just fine internationally. And I've asked people who are not in the US, and most of the time they say, yeah, nobody really cares about that. And I don't think the slap is the bigger problem here. The bigger problem was his image because of Jada, right? We all know what led up to that slap. That's the problem.
Massive.
And fortunately for him, this film has a very strong male message in it, father message in it, family message in it. There's a lot of that in the movie. And like, this is a guy's kind of film in a way, but it's also a film that if you were somebody like who enjoyed like the Lethal Weapon films, you'll like this kind of movie. Like that's kind of where the vibe is with it. And yeah, I think overall it might help remind people that they do like Will Smith as a movie star if you're a fan of his. And I think the movie's going to do pretty well through the weekend. We'll see if it has any legs. I mean, it's got until Deadpool to kind of breathe, at least. So I'm curious where it goes from here. I'm curious what people feel about it after this weekend. And as far as Will goes, I mean, I've always liked him. I hope he has a comeback of sorts. I mean, he just needs to shake Jada. That's the big thing. But yeah, we'll have to see how the weekend plays out. But so far, it's shaping up to do just about as well as the last one for its opening anyway.
Well, I know that I will personally be waiting until streaming to watch this movie because I just don't care about Will Smith.
I'm watching it today. Yes.
Well, good for you. Support your local theater. But guys, we had a lot to talk about today, and we talked about it. I want to thank my fantastic panel of nerds for being here with us. Odin of the Sacred Heart and the Pineapple Pizza. What do you got going on? Any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
You can find me over at OMB Reviews on YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, and over on the Twitters as well. And nothing crazy going on. I was going to be going to Dallas this weekend, but a lot of things just went too crazy, and so I was not able to go for the meetups that are going on there. But I will definitely be streaming Tuesday evening and Wednesday morning, Wednesday for the summer. And I'm looking forward to talking about box office because it's always good when there's something to talk about. So.
Yes, indeed. Real quick, we got a super chat from Jorn Falth for 50 crones. Kick Jada off, sleeping with friends of sons she did. So all that Yoda wisdom talking about Jada cheating on Will. Yeah, it's hard to respect Will when, his wife just doesn't respect him either. Speaking of disrespect, Tom Connors Jr., what's going on with Midnight's Edge, and do you have any final thoughts?
Well, yeah, AI is scary, and Andre should be worried because here we go.
Our story follows Ellen Brody, who believes that a shark is targeting her family out of revenge. Like it's the Godfather and they massacred his boy. The shark has a vendetta. I'm no marine biologist, but not so sure that's how the force works. But then again, considering how many sharks the Brody family has killed, the shark may have a point. They have single-handedly killed more sharks than global warming to this point, so I can see why he would have a vendetta for the Brody family. And speaking of vendettas and the Brodys, this shark has a GPS for the Brody family. It follows them from the icy waters of Amity Island to the Bahamas. Yes, the Bahamas. My GPS can't get me to a fucking gas station, but this shark can find the fucking remaining Brodys on Earth no problem.
There you go. That's just scary. That's where we're getting.
Wow.
Well, Tom, it helps that Andre sounds like AI to begin with.
It does. It does. Well, the funny thing we noticed is I notice it and he notices it, but probably nobody else will, is it either keeps trying to make his voice American or Swedish. He's like, I sound like a fucking Swede.
You need to turn the think ahead up on that training model. So that
I've run a few things. Yeah, it's not the best one in the world. It's just I'll tell you what it is after the show. But anyway.
It's pretty close. But yeah, check out Midnight's Edge After Dark, Midnight's Edge in the Morning, Midnight Mead Radio, all that good stuff. Film Professor Sean, I want to give a shout out to your movie, which is Death Ship. It is on YouTube. Link in the description and in the pinned comment on the chat. People should definitely check it out. And do you have any final thoughts on what we talked about today? And where can people find more of you?
Well, final thoughts. I'm going to be watching the third episode of The Acolyte, I guess. Just because, it, it wasn't good, but it wasn't, I've seen worse. And in terms of the AI stuff, and hey, we're going to have to see where that goes. And I think Will Smith can make a comeback if he really wants to. But other than that, you can find me at the College of Southern Nevada. Just remember, if you want to come out and see a free night's entertainment, Friday, November 1st, we're having our short film showcase. It's the 13th annual this year. So, yeah, that's it. And go out and watch a movie.
Sounds good. Brian from the Popcast, any final thoughts? And where can people have sex with you in elevators?
You can have sex with me in elevators on Pop Culture Unleashed at the Popcast Live. And I don't know, final thoughts. Star Wars Acolyte really does suck. I'm waiting for something fun to come out. Lately there is it's a TV desert out there for me. There's not much to watch that's new. So I've been doing a lot of I've been going back and watching shows. It helps that I'm also creating documentaries for those shows, like Sliders and Supernatural and stuff. So I've been enjoying that. But I do want something new. I did watch The Hitman on Netflix recently, and I thought it was pretty good. So if you haven't seen that, you should check it out. And that's it. I have no final thoughts. That's it. Next week we have a new documentary coming out on the main podcast channel. You should check that out.
Well, guys, we are going to be reviewing episode 3 of The Acolyte on next Saturday's show, because apparently episode 3 is where it gets super woke and crazy. And lots of people are going to be talking about it, and we're going to be among those people. But, just because we hate fun here on the Salty Saturday show, we're going to continue to review The Acolyte till the season's done. And then we're going to jump right into Rings of Power, which I know everyone is looking forward to. So if you hate life like we do, be sure to join us every Saturday as we talk about this stuff. And we want to thank everyone who supported us with super chats throughout the course of the show today. Mexican Iron Man, Ufuk Dat Bish, Latino Slant, Goran Falth, and Fluffy Panda. Thank you so much for your super chats. Really appreciate that. Also want to give a big shout out to everyone who gifted memberships throughout the course of the episode. Jillian N., Eric Winberg, Major Chai Chai. Thank you guys so much for your generosity. Really appreciate you guys. And be sure to tune in next Saturday, same salty time, same salty channel, as we torture ourselves more with talk of The Acolyte. It's going to get bad, guys. It's going to get worse before it gets better. When it comes to the Salty Nerd podcast on Tuesdays, that's a little bit up in the air right now. There's a lot of moving parts going on. Dutch Butters is going to be traveling, so he's not going to be here for the next 2 shows. Summer's out, so Alex and my lovely wife Jude have a lot of kid duties going on in addition to our day jobs and stuff like that. And there's also not a whole lot to talk about. So, but we're going to figure it out. We're going to continue to give you the type of complaining you've come to expect from the Salty Nerds about current state of entertainment and media. But until next time, my friends, stay salty.